Hi everyone. Hi, this is Christine Crow here, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Friday, and welcome to, wow, we're in day 24 of the 30-day CEO challenge, and I'm super excited because as each day goes by, I love to hear from clients. It's like bringing clients back that you know, forgot about me basically, and they're calling just to say how beneficial that this training and how it's helping them to survive some of the difficulties that they face. Because every business owner, I've been in business for over 35 years, and there's always trials and tribulations. And each time you overcome those trials and tribulations, you actually learn how to cope with it a lot better and to really ensure that you're in the right mindset so that you're able to take on that challenge and look at that challenge as growth. Look at that challenge as what can I really learn from this? What is the message here? You need to listen to yourself and in a quiet place. You can't be doing it when you're in a busy environment. Just sit quietly with yourself. Get yourself a cup of tea or a coffee and just sit back and think. Take a deep breath. Don't react straight away. Take a deep breath because you've got to be careful about what comes out of your mouth because you can never take back when you've said something wrong, for example. So I'm just going to drink my tea. So think about this, CEOs. We are now in this another situation that is happening. And I know that if you're in the care sector, you'll be aware of this about the skilled workers, how you can do sponsorship to get them to come over to your country, whether it's UK or in America or Cyprus even. Now, what's really there's been a lot of things happening in the UK, okay, where they are sponsorships where companies have got the sponsorship license where they can take potential employees, candidates from another country, bring them to the UK, for example, and provide them with, say, 2 months accommodation, get them settled in, for example. Don't just throw them straight into work, get them settled in so that they know what's around and where they can go shopping, important things, if they need help, who do they call? What's the police number? What is the location for perhaps college, for example, how to get to work? All of these things, you've got to make sure that when they do come in, that you are giving them proper orientation, that you're giving them proper induction. Now, I'll give you one example. When I had my agency many years ago, and I'm talking about a long time ago, I was hiring people from Poland, for example. So I would meet them from the airport, for example, and they would actually come and stay with me because I had quite a big house. Back then it was called Norfolk House. It was a big house in Sussex, for example, and I had like 3 spare bedrooms. So what I would do is I would give them their own bedroom. You can put 2 people in a room, it's not a problem, but I just felt they're grown women, they're going to want their own bedroom. So they had their own bedrooms and I allowed them to rest. I cooked a meal for them. I looked after them, took them shopping, showed them where the supermarket is, where the post office is, where the police station is, what happens in the community, for example, where the shop is down the road, where the attractions are, I showed them a lot of things really, and the library as well, things like that, just so that they could understand their environment, and also the telephone. You know, they've got families, so they're going to want to speak with their family on a regular basis. So we went out and got mobile phones, for example, so that they had a phone that they could use to call their family members. Now, they also had a welcome pack, and I also gave one car. So there was one car, and two of them would share this car. And this car really was used for getting to work, you know, how they're going to get to work, because, you know, obviously they wouldn't really know about transport right now. They've only just arrived. So I would give them a car, for example, and then they would be practicing driving and driving to different um, locations of where they're going to work. So they got used to, you know, get used to the cars. So they'd be driving for about a couple of weeks before they were sort of, you know, set free by themselves to drive around, for example. So they would have either myself or another worker would drive around with them to show them the routes, you know, because we had quite a lot of rounds in the community, for example. We also did the induction training, you know, what is expected from them. We also took them to the bank to open up a bank account so they could have their wages paid in. We did all of these things. And I also this is in Sussex, so got a caravan on a caravan site, which was a park home, you know, not the caravans that have got the wheels, that, you know, it's a park home. It was like 2-3 bedrooms, because there was a time that they wanted to bring their family over as well, and they had children, for example. So once they, you know, settled in at the house for probably about 3-4 months, they were on a permanent position. Then, for example, then they would look for somewhere that they feel that they'd be able to afford. So, you know, I drove them round to have a look, and I did the reference for them as an employee working for the company, for example. And I did things like that. And I never charged them. I never charged them. I never said, right, you pay me £5,000 or you pay me £10,000. Look, I understand that there's some fees involved when you're taking on a staff member from abroad, for example, you know, like your solicitor's fees, for example, then yeah, that's okay to charge for that. But personally, if I had a big agency, then I would pay for it like I did. For example, I gave them the car, we did all the paperwork, all of that was done, and they were so loyal, so loyal. They really were. They were amazing. But back into this story, what's happening is that people have been coming from Africa, for example, from the Philippines, maybe, and they're paying a fee. They're paying like £5,000, £10,000, and then they've got to then be looking at what the rental is going to be. They've got to dash around looking for somewhere to rent, and then that rent and the bills doesn't cover what they're being paid, because they don't understand. They've just come in to the UK. So really, if you are going to take on staff members from abroad, you need to ensure, you as a CEO, that you are on the NHS ethical recruiters list, okay? That, and you're going to also look at looking after them, okay? Not charging them an arm and a leg. You've got to make sure that you've got the work for them to come to, because like me, when I took on these carers from Poland, for example, when I was in the UK, I had lots of work. The work was coming out of my ears, you know, and it lasted for years, for example. So when you're looking at recruiting from abroad, you got to make sure that the work is there. You got to make sure that they can be paid for the full-time hours, not part-time hours. They need the 40 hours so that they can pay their bills as well as feed themselves, as well as send money home. Because sometimes people, those candidates, they may have got a loan out from their family members, for example. Maybe everyone put money together to send them over for a better life. And I've even had it where a client has called me, in tears because they're like, my family are relying on me and I've got this sponsorship and I don't have enough hours. What am I going to do? How do I navigate this situation? So make sure that you've got the hours to give the person and make sure that they can afford where they're going to be staying, for example. So if you're putting them up and you've got a spare room, that's fine and dandy, for example. But some of your candidates will be going into their own accommodation that you've possibly found, for example, through a landlord. And then they've got to pay that rent and they've got to feed themselves. You don't want them. I'm hearing horror stories where they're not feeding themselves. They're having to go to the food bank, for example, to get food. You don't want that. You don't want that. And they've paid you £10,000, for example. Don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of companies reach out to me to see if I have got a client who is a sponsor and that they're willing to pay to have that candidate put there, but they've charged that candidate £10,000, for example. So you got to be careful because you can get into trouble. The candidate can get into trouble, but you can get into trouble. And there's a lot going on at the moment where it's been exposed, especially last year. I'm a bit late talking about this, but some people don't know about this. And this is the CEO 30-day challenge. So you need to be aware of these things, especially if you're doing care. You can actually get into trouble. Like I said, you could be fined, you could be imprisoned. I've heard of stories where it's classed as human trafficking because people aren't being paid, but yet they're working long hours for you. That's not right. So what is it that you can do as an employer, as a CEO, whereby you're helping those candidates that are coming from abroad? You can look at the NHS, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow because it's important. We've got to look at all the things that we can do because we know that the NHS is looking at reducing agency staff, for example. So how can you pivot and still provide a service to the NHS, which is going to actually be better for you and benefit you because you're not dealing with this, 30-minute here, the 15-minute here, for example. I'm just using this as an example. You can do permanent placements. Do permanent placements whereby you're charging, say, 10 to 15% of that person's annual salary. The salary is usually about 35,000 to 40,000, depending really on the location. So if we look at, for example, 35,000 times, say, 15%, you're getting 5,250 for a month. And you keep doing that, rinse and repeat, and it's just one person. Isn't it a lot easier to place one person for the month than placing multiple people that's going to bring in the same profit as what it would be if you was to place someone permanently with an organization? Now think about it. You've got these candidates going out on a temporary basis, one after the other, right? 1 hour here, 45 minutes there. The profit margin is probably about 20 to 30% if you're lucky. Now, in order for you to get that 5,200 from the 30% profit, you're going to have to do a lot of hours, a lot of hours. And let's look at working smarter, not harder. Let's do the, the generation Z or something, really think smarter, not harder. I'm not saying the lazy way, because I'm not saying anyone's lazy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying think smarter. You've got to think smarter. And you can look at placing staff members permanently with the NHS. The NHS, they have got thousands and upon thousands of recruitment vacancies, for example. Like, for example, there's recruitment coordinators at the moment, 5,000 positions. Think about it. I know you're not gonna be able to place 5,000 people at once, but maybe you can place 10 in a year. And why not? Why shouldn't you do that? Because imagine doing that rather than doing this 1 hour here, 30 minutes here, where you can just interview the candidate, make sure that you've gathered all the details that's applicable to the position that is available, make sure the CV matches that as well. Then you then arrange an interview. Then they take that person on and you take 5,200 as a one-off fee. Isn't that much better? CEOs, isn't it much better? Comment in the chat here, better. It is, because you're working smarter, not harder. You're giving yourself more time freedom. Time freedom is the most valuablest gift that you can give yourself. Rather than running yourself ragged, people think by being busy that you're really doing really well. I'm busy being busy, but you're busy doing busyness that you don't need to have your business in. You could be doing something a lot more worthwhile. It's going to really benefit your organization. So I wanted to mention that to you about be aware, be mindful, do not fall into the trap. If someone says to you, become a sponsor and I will pay you £10,000. And it is a short-term get rich quick scheme, but it's not long-term. It's not ethical. People are vulnerable. They come over to you, they trust you, they want to be looked after. They want to know that they've come over, they've done the right thing. Their family members who are abroad want to also know that they're not going to be hurt in any way, taken advantage of, for example. And I'm hearing some horror stories, and it has been around unfortunately, it's been around for a number of years. I remember hearing about one provider who was taking advantage of people, locking them, basically keeping them in a room and doing whatever he wanted to do with them, which is wrong. Obviously it was reported to CQC, but all those people, those carers that came from abroad, trusted that person to look after them. And what did they do? They took advantage. They didn't pay them. They did the work. They showed up. They did the work. They delivered the care. And maybe the CEOs gave them some food, but they wanted their own wages, for example. So don't fall into that trap. Avoid it like anything. Don't get involved in that. Just say, no, thank you. We're doing what we're doing here and we're quite happy with that. We don't want to add any confusion or any expectations that's going to leave that person vulnerable, whereby they've come from another country, for example, to get work from the care home, whatever, or maybe they've got the work from the care home, but the care home can't give them the hours that they've wanted, the full-time hours. So therefore, they're not able to send money back home. There's so many reasons why you shouldn't do it if you're not going to do it correctly. Now, if you do it correctly, then that is wonderful. That's great. I'm not saying not to do it, but I'm saying to be ethical. I'm saying to do it the right way. Then you will be fine. So if you've got any questions, just drop in the comments here. I can also help you as a coach. I can help you with, if you're thinking about doing sponsorship, bringing people over from abroad, let's talk about it first. I'm not here to give you immigration advice, but I'm here to tell you about what you could do and how it's going to benefit you. And then that way, there's no surprises for you, for example. But I know that there's providers out there that are just basically taking these people, these candidates on just because of the money. And then they haven't got the work for them, but yet they've had the 10 grand, for example, and that worker doesn't have any work or small amounts of work, or perhaps being shouted at and threatened, for example. Like I've heard some horror stories like, be grateful you're here. I brought you over here, so what are you complaining about? I'm feeding you, what are you complaining about? And if you report me, then I'm going to report you to the Home Office. If you carry on, I'll report you to the Home Office and you get deported, for example. This is the kind of thing that we don't want to happen. You've got to make sure that you do it correctly. That way, they're going to be happy, you're going to be happy, and your clients are going to be happy. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. So I hope that that was helpful to you and that you've learnt a lot from what I've just spoken about. And tomorrow we are going to be delving into this more deeply, and I cannot wait. I'm going to delve into this deeply. Let's just have a look here. And I will just go into the positions that are available with the NHS, for example, as well as what the pay structure is, because you can be a recruitment consultant. You've got an agency, you be the recruitment consultant, and you approach the NHS regarding all of these vacancies. But also, people can come direct and apply for themselves. But there's also the position of the recruitment consultant, the recruitment coordinator, who can apply for that position within the NHS. So if you know of anybody that needs the sponsorship license, then, ask them to listen tomorrow. Yeah, get started. Think about all of those positions that you could be looking to fill as much as possible, for example. That's going to be a great satisfaction for you. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Join me for tomorrow's live. I'm going to put the link here, as well as all the other videos as well, for the CEO challenge. This is the day, I can't believe how fast the time is going. Day 26. I can't imagine that I've done 26 days already, and I could go on and on and on. The next challenge is going to be about e-commerce, about setting up your own e-commerce website, kind of like drop shipping, kind of like e-commerce websites, selling products, how you can sell products without you actually paying for it, and making an income stream ready for the holiday season as well. I've made like 15,000 a week when I was really getting into it with the drop shipping, for example. It is nice because it's something you can do from home. Again, you don't have to hold stock. Even though I was holding stock, I was doing fancy dress, costumes, for example. For Halloween, I used to sell it at that time of the year. I was doing a lot of seasonal stuff as well. When it was the Queen's Jubilee, I was making my own toothpicks, and it was, let's just get one open. So, for example, I'd have a toothpick, and this toothpick I would have like the British flag on there or picture of the Queen, for example, right? And I would make my own cocktail sticks. So I do toothpicks, but the toothpicks were a lot thicker. So it'd be like a cocktail stick as well as toothpicks as well. I used to make little things that didn't cost much. I used to buy them off of Alibaba. If you want to learn about that, join me. That's going to happen as well. That's going to be a 30-day challenge because I want you to make some money. The training that I'm giving you is about you making money whilst I am training you. Okay. So the CEO challenge is about you getting into the right mindset so that you can face challenges without losing your control, without being emotional. This is the reason why I'm doing this. But what the next challenge is going to be, I'm going to be doing all different challenges. The next one is really in time for Christmas, making things. I used to love to make things as well. So the next 30-day challenge after this one will be about e-commerce, how you can sell products online and make money. And I'll take you step by step by step how to do it as well. Something so simple that costs pennies, how you can make things. I used to get my children when they were younger to help me make the cocktail sticks, for example, or the toothpicks, for example. We used to really have fun doing it. And then I would sell them in bags of 50, these toothpicks. And it was the Queen Jubilee. And people were buying them like hotcakes. I was doing cake toppers as well. I was making cupcakes. I was doing hampers. I was doing fruit cakes. I was doing sponge cakes. I was making all kinds of things and I was selling them. I would do a lovely basket with bath bombs because I used to make my own bath bombs and soaps. So I'm going to go through all of this as well because it's such a good thing and it's therapeutic and you're going to make money as well. And your kids, they'll love it. They can join in with you and it makes the house smell divine. It smells lovely. And I always remember making these lovely baskets. Well, I'd buy the baskets. In the UK, it's called the Range, the shop. There was a shop called the Range. So I'd buy all these different baskets. And then I would buy all the little filler things, the shredded paper things. And then I would make my bath bombs, different shapes, hearts, etc. Then I would put them into the basket and lay them out lovely. For example, I would make my own lavender soap. So I'd slice it off and then I would put it with, and then I'd do another soap thing and then I would put it into the basket, for example. And then I would do some herbal pebble, put some pebbles in. I would make some lip balms as well. And I would put things like, simple things like this. For example, this is like sage. This is what you do. Like at the end of the week, I always burn this, in my office, around the house. I bless the house, get rid of any spirits that are not good, that's toxic, just to release the air to make it more peaceful and energetic, for example, because I work off of energy and frequency as well. Now, when you have all of these things together, and you've got like your sponges that you'll put in there, and the basket, I would get the plastic cling film thing, but it was like cellophane, and then the ribbon. Then I would have a thank you note, and then I would have that delivered in a box, for example, and I would sell something like that for £100, and people paid for it because it was handmade. I used to also have Amazon do fulfillments for me. So I would drop all of my, once I'd stamped it and tagged it and barcoded everything. So I knew that, so they knew it was my product, and when things sold, they would deliver it for me. I had a container full of stuff. I used to have my friends, they would sell things for me as well. I used to do party plans. You know, I always remember selling on a Navy base in Plymouth, you know, to the Army wife and the Navy wives. You know, they'd be in different places, of course. And then I would sell, and, you know, I could quite easily make £500,000 in a day. I would go and do markets as well. You know, I did quite a lot of things. And now Christmas is coming up. I want to really, for those of you that celebrate Christmas, I really, or for just for getting money together, you know, for any purpose, I want to show you ways that you can make money that has worked for me, for example. And like I said, so the next challenge will be in, I'll announce the date anyway in 3 days' time, for example. But the next challenge is going to be in the third week of November. It's going to be for the month. And what I want you to do is make money from this as well. Okay? It's going to be amazing. I hope that you'll be able to join me here, YouTube Live. We're going to talk about some products that you can sell without actually paying for it. I know it sounds weird, but you can. We're going to talk about your e-commerce website as well to get started. For example, we're going to talk about a lot of ways that you can promote it as well, and the keywords as well. We're going to talk about Amazon Central, Associates, etc. We're going to talk about all of those platforms, Shopify, all of them. We're going to go through that as well. You can create your own digital product. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take much to do it. Seriously, we can do this. And this is the reason why I'm doing these challenges, to help you to look at these things that you can do on the side. It's not just about a side hustle. It's about making money, taking on a new business venture and making it work. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, okay, we can work for a boss. If you enjoy that, that's great, wonderful. But why not do things that you can work for yourself? You know, there's so much out there. Abundance is everywhere. We just got to make it work. We got to find it. We've got to take action. If you don't take action, then it's not going to work. So please, 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 if you are looking at recruiting, you want to do it ethically, you got to look after them because they're like your family. If you're getting them to come over to your organization as a sponsor, and I'm just jumping back into where I started conversation wise, then you need to look after them as if they are your own family member coming to live in the UK, for example, or in the US. Yeah, so you don't want to get yourself into trouble. CEOs, you don't want to get yourself into trouble. Always check with the Home Office. Okay, you want to make sure that you're doing things the correct way. Okay, but this is an opportunity for you as a CEO to do recruitment, but do it on a permanent basis where you're supplying staff members to the NHS and even to the care homes, for example, and then you're being paid for it. Yeah. And yeah, there's people that can apply direct, and that's another conversation which I'll be going into over the weekend tomorrow, for example. But if you do it, they will accept it as well. Okay. So I'm going to be talking to you about the 5,000 vacancies, probably gone down a lot now because it's out. The vacancies for sponsorship, for example, whereby the person can be a recruitment consultant or recruitment coordinator, for example, or you can supply that permanent person to work in the NHS and you get paid for it, for example. That's one way. But then there's lots of other positions that you can offer as well as a permanent recruitment. Yeah, the NHS are tightening down on temporary workers. They're trying not to use them, but pivot. Look at what else you can provide to the NHS that you're going to work in partnership with them. So I hope that was helpful for you today. And I know I digressed, but I wanted to talk to you about how you can do an online store as well. But today is about you as well, providing permanent staff members. Let's look at that aspect rather than just temporary workers. You want to provide both, but the easier way is permanent placement. And you can get like, say, 20,000 a month doing it part-time. Part-time. You can go to work and still do it, or even have one day off a week, for example. Yeah? So if you've enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe and book a free 15-minute appointment with me so I can talk to you about the recruitment. I can even talk to you about drop shipping because I want to help. And we can rise together and help one another because we've all got so much to offer each other. Everyone has got their own talent. We do. We just got to use it. Okay? If you can work for someone else, you certainly can do it for yourself. So thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today. God bless you all, and I will see you on the internet. Take care. Thank you. Bye.